The Big Bang, Zhang, is a promotional stablemate of Tyson Fury, and he probably embarrassed Frank Warren a little bit. The red-faced, steam coming out of the ears, fuming Frank Warren that we've seen of late, the desperate Frank Warren, he was probably a little embarrassed by Zhang's comments, if he's heard them, because Zhang has come out and said that Tyson Fury should stop lying to the public, stop talking about fighting, and actually get in the ring and do it. And if you look at the comments below the video, everyone is in agreement, applauding, because at this point, the jig is up for Tyson Fury. All this nonsense and gaslighting isn't working on the public anymore. Frank Warren should know better, but as I said already, he seems like a desperate man. Anyway, Zhang saying that Fury should stop messing around, stop lying to the public. He said it's hurting boxing, and it absolutely is hurting boxing. As I said in a recent video, Tyson Fury, unfortunately, has become a cancer in the heavyweight division by not fighting Alexander Usyk, messing around and doing all the nonsense that he does. Usyk obviously has got an assignment against Daniel Dubois. If he comes through that, that's who Tyson Fury should be looking to fight. All this other stuff is just a smoke screen that Fury's doing, talking about the AJs, and it's all a smoke screen. It's all distractions. Get in there and fight Usyk. Don't want to hear nothing about, oh, AJ's scared of me. AJ has lost 2 of his last 3 fights. He looked poor against Jermaine Franklin. Why are you so desperate to fight a guy like that? Shouldn't you be desperate if you're the greatest heavyweight of all time, the greatest heavyweight of your generation, to prove it by fighting all the unbeaten guys, the guys who don't have issues with confidence, the guys who are at the top of their game? Shouldn't you want to get in and fight those people? That's what Lennox Lewis did. That's what Mike Tyson did. That's what Muhammad Ali did. That's what Joe Louis did. They weren't sitting around saying, oh, I shouldn't have to fight him and I shouldn't have to fight. You see, Frank Warren the other day, he answered the question of why can't Tyson fight Hrgovic by saying, well, why doesn't Anthony Joshua fight him? That type of response, first of all, is evasive because you're not answering the question. And secondly, Anthony Joshua is not a world champion. He's a guy who's lost 2 of his last 3 fights, who looked poor against Jermaine Franklin, who's in a rebuilding process. When Lennox Lewis, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, got knocked out by Oliver McCall, did they throw him straight back in the deep end against one of the top fighters? Of course they didn't, because that's not how it's done. When you've got a fighter whose confidence is shot because he's coming off a bad loss or he's in a bad patch in his career, you drop them down a level or 2 and then you bring them back slowly until their confidence is back up. Then you put him in against the top fighter again. That's how it's always been done. Frank Warren knows that. That's what they did with Lennox Lewis. When he got knocked out by Oliver McCall, they brought him back against the journeyman Lionel Butler. Then they brought him back against another journeyman, Justin Fortune. No disrespect, Justin Fortune's a nice guy. But yeah, they brought him back against Justin Fortune after that. Then they stepped him up a little bit against Tommy Morrison. Then they stepped him up even more against Ray Murphy. So it was a gradual process. And that's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. When Mike Tyson, another one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, got knocked out by Buster Douglas, did they throw him straight back in there against the top contender? No. They put him in there against the fringe contender in Henry Tillman. They wanted to see where Mike Tyson's head was at. They wanted to take it easy. They didn't throw him straight back into the deep end. So they brought him back against Henry Tillman, then Alex Stewart, then they stepped him up against Razor Ruddock. It's a gradual process. This is how it's always been done. Again, Frank Warren knows this. He's talking nonsense. He is trying to pull the wool over the eyes of casuals and, of course, the Fury cheerleaders who are going to lap it all up. It's all nonsense, yeah? If you're a world champion, you have an obligation to fight the best. That's what Tyson Fury has. An obligation to unify against Usyk and an obligation to fight all the top contenders out there. If you don't like having that responsibility and you want to be able to pick and choose your opponents and fight whoever AJ's fighting, if you want to be able to do that, give up the belt. It's very straightforward. If you give up the belt, stop calling yourself a champion, all that lineal nonsense, that's not going to fly. It's like George Foreman in the 90s. Yeah, he beat Michael Moorer for the legitimate title, but he got stripped. And then he was going around fighting bums for a couple years. People like, again, no disrespect to these guys, but in boxing terms, they're bums. The likes of Crawford Grimsley, Lou Savarese and these kind of people. That's who George Foreman was fighting. And I think he had some kind of WBF or some real Mickey Mouse title at the time. But yeah, he was going around calling himself world champion lineal. But everyone knew it was a circus. Nobody took that portion of George Foreman's career seriously. They knew that he was just milking his victory over Michael Moorer for as much as he could, and he didn't want to fight anybody serious. Everyone knew that at the time, yeah? Everyone knew it was a circus and it was all nonsense. They knew that despite George Foreman being the lineal, quote unquote, the real action was going on with Lennox Lewis, Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Mike Tyson. That's where the real action was. That's where the real champions were. It weren't with George Foreman. Great achievement beating Michael Moorer, but after that, come on, that was some circus thing. Everyone knew that at the time. With Tyson Fury, again, if he doesn't want the responsibility of being a champion, meaning fighting the best every time you step out, give up the belt, give it a rest with all this lineal nonsense, and go off and fight whoever you want to fight. Then I won't care. If Tyson Fury gives up the belt and stops calling himself a champion, I'm happy for him to go and fight a trilogy with John McDermott, dig up David Price, go fight David Haye. I don't care. It's like Mayweather right now, fighting all these exhibitions. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. He's not calling himself a champion at this stage. Doesn't have a title belt. So there are no obligations in the space Mayweather's in at the moment for him to do any more than he's doing. But with Tyson Fury, he has obligations. Obligations to the fans to live up to all of his boasts, saying that he's the greatest of all time and, this and that. Still saying it recently. Greatest of all time, greatest of his generation, and he's got a title belt. See, it'd be one thing saying those things, but you're nowhere near a world title. Then people can just forget about it. You're just noise in the background. But when you've got a world title, when you're an incumbent world champion, and you're saying all this stuff, you better live up to it. So that's my take on Tyson Fury. Applaud Zhang, saying it like it is. Despite the fact it's a stablemate, he's keeping it real. Doesn't care about embarrassing Frank Warren, who's red in the face. Yeah, Frank Warren's red in the face because he's defending a pathological liar. That's what Frank Warren's doing. He's defending the biggest liar in boxing, in Tyson Fury. So when you're in that position, yeah, you're going to burst the blood vessel in your head and turn red as a tomato, because when the jig is up, when the public finally wake up to what this pathological liar Tyson Fury has been doing, then basically it's a impossible task defending him. You're going to burst the blood vessel in your head. And Frank Warren needs to calm down. Hasn't he had some health issues recently? He needs to calm down. He needs to give George Warren most of that work. I know George Warren's not so good in front of camera and he's not the most charismatic guy you've ever seen, but leave it to him. He's getting paid to promote Tyson Fury, yes, but that shouldn't be at the detriment of your health. Yeah, so take a chill pill, Frank. What you're coming out and saying is not working anyway. It's just compounding the problem. So leave it out. Applaud Zhang. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.